Hello and welcome to Military Mayday, where we're pointing out a few pieces on the chessboard. And I've got some pieces that are making some movements here. Now, these aren't the big bad boy pieces, but they're big enough to pay close attention to. The Russian army has received 1,900 tanks, and another 200 are expected. Let's get into this. Sergei Chezbizov, the director of Russia's state-owned company Rostec, has declared a substantial increase in the nation's tank production in 2023, escalating by a striking sevenfold, as stated in various Russian media outlets. Simultaneously, Russian military pundit Viktor Msky ascertains that his assessments show a delivery to the armed forces of approximately 2,100 tanks of diverse varieties in 2023 by the Russian military-industrial complex. Notably, this total encompasses the T-54 and 55 and T-62 series tanks, along with their subsequent modifications, and concludes with the advanced T-90M Proyer. And there's a T-80 too, I believe. The scenario painted might appear foreboding given the previously assumed capacity of the Russian manufacturers to produce roughly 200 of the new T-90M tanks annually. It's a pretty looking tank. A thorough perusal of the estimates offered by Moravsky presents an illuminating perspective. In 2023, the Russian military was supplied with nearly 1,900 tanks, comprising 210 freshly manufactured tanks, 840 modernized T-72B3 tanks, in addition to the 840 reinstated T-80, T-72, T-62, and T-55-54 tanks. 2 years prior, the Russian military procured merely 30 fresh production tanks and 120 refurbished units. In stark contrast to this year, the 2020 saw no older models of domestically produced tanks being withdrawn from reserve by Russia. However, this depiction can be vastly contradicted when cross-referenced with alternate sources. Survey experts from Sweden Research Institute's FOI cite that their report on the Russian Federation military capacity after 1.5 years of all war with Ukraine, that Russian military industrial division now has the capability of delivering far fewer tanks per annum, approximately 520 units. The breakdown is as follows: 62 of the T-90s, 80 units of the T-80s, 140 of the T-72s. This data exists despite the Swedish FOI reports proposing pessimistic evaluations of Russia's armored potential, inferring that Russia possesses up to 2,000 varied modifications of the T-64 and approximately 2,800 tanks of the T-54-55. Furthermore, the projections speculate by 2024, irrespective of current losses and conservative estimates of Russian defense production capabilities, the Russian army would still maintain a stock of 2,500 to 3,000 tanks. Given these facts, one may surmise that in 2023 the Russian military will likely amass up to 2,100 diverse types of tanks, depending on the delivery and the remaining of the 200. Nevertheless, for the sake of enhancing this portrayal, Russian defense industry leaders and domestic reviewers have include all tanks within numbers, including those retrieved from storage and subject to normal backlogs from the Ministry of Defense armored plant facilities. The situation could consequently elucidate the perceived inefficiency concerning losses the Russian military leadership incurs when deploying tanks in offensive maneuvers. Owing to belief of Russia's political military heads that limitless stock of main battle tanks is available in storage depots, they appear to have the capability to compensate for any losses with relative ease. And yeah, it sure sounds like it. I mean, 2,100 tanks, and then the capacity to put out anywhere from, 2,000 to 3,000 per year. And that's not including what new facilities they are going to be building to bring in more types of tank rides. Here's another one. Russia is amassing bombers at the angles, 7 Tu-95s and 4 Tu-160s. 7 Tu-95 bombers are parked side by side, and 4 Tu-160s are scattered around the northern end of the airport. As a Ukrainian Telegram account writes, painted the Russian bombers conclude to stand on the runway, their paint not fading. I don't know what the hell that means, but this is perhaps one of the rarest cases since the beginning of the Russian special military operation. This term is used by Moscow instead of war, the Ukraine, in which assembly of a total of 11 long-range aircraft occurred simultaneously on the same day. It should also be noted that the photos clearly show the containers for storing the missiles, which are near the 7 Tu-95 bombers, according to the Ukrainian sources. At the end of September, Engels hosted only 5 Tu-95MS and 2 Tu-160 bombers. That's almost double increase in over a month. I don't know about double, but I'd say it's a 60% increase, or a 30% increase, isn't it? Significantly, aside from the 4 uniquely painted bombers, they share uncanny resemblances with other recent innovations. You can see similarities like the use of car tires on both of the fuselages and wings of these bombers. However, it is worth noting there isn't any form of improvised drone defense in play yet. Much like how the rapid construction aircraft shelters we've discussed previously aren't installed yet. But just as there is no such improvised drone defense, the Russians have not yet installed the quick-build aircraft shelters we wrote about before. As mentioned, there are missile pods available. Yeah, there's the missiles right there. Load onto these fucking giant bombers. As mentioned, there are missile pods available near Su-95. The last time they were seen in such configuration, the Russian aerospace forces launched a massive missile strike on Ukraine. On September 27th, a satellite photo was taken that showed open containers with KH-101 555 missiles. They placed near the 2 T-95s. A bustle of technical personnel was noticeable at the time of the satellite image. That's why I hate reading these fucking Russian stories, man. I mean, these motherfuckers that try to sound like they're fucking super geniuses. The absence of technical personnel in the photograph taken on November 13th hints towards an unspoken narrative. The very appearance of the containers in the background subtly indicate that the process of loading missiles into the belly of the bombers is imminent. Engel is known for some facts. In addition to the fact that in 2022, Ukraine armed forces carried out a successful missile attack on the Russian Engel base, this home of Russia long-range aviation became famous for another fact. Car tires. Yes, it was here that 2 T-95's bombers were covered with car tires months ago. The tires covered both wings and entire fuselage along the length of the aircraft. At the time, Russian experts suggested that it was an improvised, quick, and cheap anti-drone device. Later, Russian Su-35 fullback fighter bombers were photographed in the same base at the same condition, covered with car tires. The Russian Tu-95 and Tu-160 bombers are capable of carrying a variety of missiles and bombs. One of the primary missiles carried by these bombers is the cruise missile. K is a long-range subsonic cruise missile with 5,000 kilometers, and the KH-102 is nuclear variant of the KH-101 designed specifically for nuclear strikes. There's some of them there. Some big bastards, ain't they? Besides the capability of carrying the KH-101 and 102 cruise missile, the T-95 and T-160 bombers have been engineered to accommodate the KH-55 cruise missile as well. Featuring subsonic speeds and an impressive range of up to 3,000 kilometers, the KH-55 is a cruise missile designed for long-distance capabilities. The KH-55 is a subsonic long-range cruise missile with a range of up to 3,000 kilometers. Furthermore, the Tu-95, Tu-160 bombers can carry a range of air-to-surface missile. One such missile is the KH-15, also known as the AS-16 Kickback. The KH-15 is a supersonic air-launched missile with a range of up to 300 kilometers. In terms of bombs, the 195 and 160 bombers can carry various types of free-fall bombs. Among the types of conventional bombs, these bombers can carry the FAB 500, a general-purpose bomb that weighs 500 kilograms, the FAB 1500, a hefty piece of ordnance tipping the scale at 1,500 kilograms. The bombers can also carry nuclear bombs such as the FAB 1500HE, which is a 1,500 kilogram nuclear bomb. So, we got a few of these lining up. The tires, I guess, is supposedly to deter the drones from hitting it. I don't get that myself, but I don't know much about that stuff. Here's the missiles cargo hold where they're putting bombs and missiles on it. So they might be lining up for another bombing raid somewhere. But as you can see, the pieces are stacking up good, guys. We're getting into World War III. It hasn't even really started, but it's going to be a slow roast. Anyway, if you enjoy the content, smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Try to get a few more of these out. Toodaloo.